Okay, have you ever felt like native English speakers are just talking way too fast?
Yeah.
It's like they're speaking some kind of secret code or just mumbling.
Right.
You shared a masterclass with me about speaking and understanding faster English, so we are diving into that today.
Yeah, and I think it'll be great to not just figure out how to understand rapid-fire English, but also how to speak it more naturally and fluently ourselves.
For sure, for sure. I saw in the source material, they talk about this shadowing technique. I'm really curious to learn more about that. But first, why does English sound so fast to non-native speakers in the first place?
I think it's a few different things all coming together at once. One big thing is connected speech.
Okay.
Which is basically how words kind of blend together.
Yeah.
Instead of what do you want? It sounds more like wadaya wanna.
Yeah. So it's not that the words themselves are faster. It's just they all kind of...
They mush together.
Yeah, they get mashed together, yeah. And then there's all those contractions too, right?
Absolutely. Contractions and reductions are everywhere in natural English. And I think they definitely add to the speed. Things like, going to do, becoming gonna, or want to, shrinking to wanna.
Yeah.
It's like we like to be lazy with our words, but it makes it hard for people to understand.
Yeah. No, what is this schwa thing I keep hearing about?
Yeah, so the schwa...
What is that?
The schwa is a tricky one. It's like this chameleon vowel that changes based on the sounds that are around it.
Oh, okay.
It's this really unstressed, kind of mumbly sound you hear in words the classic example is banana. It's not banana, it's more like bunana.
Yeah.
It just becomes this lazy sound.
So the schwa, it can pop up in any word then.
Yeah.
Not just, banana is the one everyone uses.
It can even happen a bunch of times in the same word. Think of the word photography.
Yeah.
It's not photography, it's more like photography.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
The schwa can really change how a word sounds.
It really is like a secret code. I think an audio example would be really good here.
Yeah.
The masterclass actually gives an example of, I should have told you earlier, both at kind of a slower speed and a native speed.
Okay.
So let's listen to that.
Sounds good.
Audio plays, I should have told you earlier, followed by, I should have told you earlier. Yeah. It's crazy.
It does.
It's almost like two different languages. I can totally see why this is a challenge.
Yeah. But what's cool is that you don't necessarily need to hear every single sound to get what's being said. Our brains are actually really good at filling in the missing information.
That's good to know because, yes, some of that is impossible to understand. Okay, so how do we train our ears to be better at decoders of all this?
Well, one really good way is to practice something called chunking.
Okay.
And basically, instead of getting stuck on each individual word, you try to hear phrases as units.
Oh.
It's kind of like how we read, right? We're not focusing on each letter. We group the letters into words.
Yeah.
And then phrases.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, sure. Imagine someone's like, do you want to grab some lunch later?
Yeah.
If you try to pick out every single sound.
Yeah.
It's just a jumble, right?
Yeah.
But if you kind of chunk it together in your mind, you want to grab some lunch later.
Right.
It becomes way more clear.
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of get the big idea.
Yeah, you're listening for the key idea and not every little word.
Exactly.
Cool. That kind of leads into the next thing, right? About listening in layers.
It does, yeah.
This sounds very Zen-like.
It is. It's like, think about listening to a song for the first time. You're not going to catch all the words, all the lyrics, all the nuances right away, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with English.
So we're listening to the same thing multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are the layers?
Well, so on the first pass, you're just listening for the gist. Who's talking? What are they talking about?
Right.
And then on the second listen, you try to pick out keywords that'll give you more context.
Okay.
And then on the third listen, that's when you can really zero in on the tricky bits, the connected speech, maybe those contractions you couldn't quite pick out the first time.
Okay, it's kind of like peeling back an onion, right?
Exactly.
You get a little more information every time.
You got it.
Cool. We actually have a dialogue example in the masterclass that we can use to try this.
Perfect.
Audio plays. Hey, do you want to grab some coffee? Yeah, but let me finish this first. Cool, I'll meet you in 10.
Okay.
So how would we use this layered listening for this little coffee shop conversation?
Okay, so on that first listen, you're getting, two people are going to get coffee.
Yeah.
Easy. Then on that second layer, you might pick out keywords like coffee, maybe finish this, and then 10 minutes.
Okay.
So now you're getting a better picture of what's going on.
Right.
And then finally, on the third listen, you can really zoom in. Like, okay, do you want it?
Yeah.
How are they using those contractions and reductions?
Okay, yeah, that makes it much less intimidating.
Yeah.
Breaking it down like that. Now, what about speaking faster? How do we do that without sounding like, some kind of robot?
Like a robot reading a dictionary.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Well, this masterclass talks a lot about sounding natural and fluent, not just talking faster.
Right.
Like you said, we don't want to sacrifice clarity just to sound fast.
Yeah, so are there specific techniques for this?
Well, remember all those contractions and reductions we talked about?
Yeah.
Those are really important for speaking fluently, too.
So instead of saying, like, I'm going to the store, I should say, I'm going to go to the store.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Oh.
And it might feel a little weird at first,
It does.
but I promise it just makes your English sound smoother and more effortless.
Okay. But how do we actually get used to doing that?
Right. Well, that's where that shadowing technique comes in.
Okay.
So you are going to be like a vocal chameleon. You listen to a native speaker.
Yeah. Say a phrase or a sentence. You pause it, and then you try to repeat exactly what they said,
Okay.
matching their pronunciation, intonation, and speed.
So like, what are you doing? I should say more like, what you doing?
Perfect, yeah.
Okay.
And you can start slow, and then as you get more comfortable, you can speed it up.
That's cool. Are there any other techniques we can use?
Yeah, another one is linking.
Okay.
So like native speakers, we just do it naturally, but it's something that you might have to practice consciously if you're learning.
Okay.
So like, for instance, not at all often becomes not at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So the tan sound from not blends with that vowel sound of at.
Oh, that's so subtle. Wow.
It is.
I want to try a little fast reading challenge, can I?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the source material has the sentence, would you like to go to the movies later?
Yeah.
How would a native speaker actually say that?
Probably something like, would ya? Like, go to the movies later.
Wow, that's a mouthful. Okay, so I'm noticing would you becomes would ya, to is like ta, and the like disappears before movies.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all about those smooth transitions.
Yeah. Okay. I can already tell I need to practice that one. We've been practicing here in this nice, perfect little world, right?
Right.
How do we take this into the real world where there's all kinds of accents and people talking at all different speeds?
That is the real challenge, right? Because the real world is full of all these variations, different accents, slang, speaking styles.
Yeah.
It's really like taking what you learned in the classroom and then...
throwing yourself into the deep end.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
It was, like, scary. So what advice does the masterclass have for us for bridging that gap?
Well, I mean, really, it's about exposure and practice.
Okay.
The more you immerse yourself in the language, the more prepared you'll be to handle those real-world variations.
What are some good ways to get that real-world practice?
Well, they talk about watching TV shows and movies.
Oh.
You can start with the subtitles on to get the gist, and then challenge yourself.
Right.
Turn the subtitles off. See how much you could understand.
Yeah, I find even watching with English subtitles, like, helps me pick up stuff I might not have noticed otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's podcasts,
Okay.
which are great because you can adjust the speed.
Right.
You can start slow, work your way up.
What about actually talking with native speakers?
Well, that's the best practice you can get, right?
Right.
Find language exchange partners, maybe join some groups online, or even, if you're brave enough, strike up conversations with people you meet.
I remember I was so scared to talk to native speakers when I was learning English.
Yeah.
But I realized, like, pretty quickly, most people are really patient and they appreciate the effort you're making.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it really is about just building that confidence and not being afraid to, like, mess up.
For sure. Don't be afraid to ask people to slow down or repeat themselves.
Yeah.
People are happy to help.
Yeah. So we really need to embrace that messiness, right? It's going to be messy. It's not going to be perfect.
Absolutely.
Now, the masterclass has one final challenge for us before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive.
Okay.
They want us to imagine we're hanging out with friends, and they ask, hey, deal up for a movie tonight.
Fun.
Okay, I'm ready for this challenge. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Audio plays. Hey, you up for a movie tonight? Dunno. What's playing? That new sci-fi one looks cool. All right, let me check the show times.
Oh, casual, fast English.
So what techniques are we hearing in this?
Okay, well, right away we hear that contraction, ya,
Right.
instead of you, and then what's playing. It combines like what is and playing into one little chunk.
I noticed they're saying do know instead of don't know, and then
Yeah.
let me instead of let me.
It's amazing how those little things make such a big difference.
Yeah, it's like a little puzzle.
It is.
All these pieces, you can even hear that linking, like looks cool becomes looks cool. That's so cool. Okay, so now the challenge is to imagine how we would respond.
Yes.
Using everything we've talked about.
Exactly. And there's no one right answer.
Right.
It's about using what you've learned and seeing how you can apply it to this conversation.
So we're leaving you with that challenge for now, dear listener. How would you respond to this invitation to go to the movies? We'll explore this more in the next part of our deep dive.
You know, it's crazy to think about how all these like tiny little things, the contractions, the schwa sound linking, it all adds up to make English sound so fast.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, it's not really about speed, is it?
No, not really. It's more about understanding each other.
Right, being able to communicate.
Exactly.
I think that's easy to forget when you get so caught up in like the rules and the technical stuff.
It's easy to get bogged down in that.
Yeah.
And forget why we're even learning the language.
Totally. I like that this masterclass really focuses on that, like the human element of language. It does. It gives some good advice about how to turn all this stuff we're talking about into like real fluency.
That's what I'm curious about, because I feel like I've hit walls so many times where I'm just like, I'm not getting any better. Like, what's the secret to getting over those plateaus?
Well, it's not really a secret. I think a lot of people they don't do it.
Yeah.
But it's practice.
Yeah.
It's consistent practice.
Okay, so not just like cramming.
Right, not just cramming a bunch of words and grammar rules.
Right, yeah.
But really making it a habit.
Okay, yeah. So what would a good practice routine look like? Say I'm like just starting out.
Well, I mean, even if you could just do like 15, 20 minutes a day of focused listening.
Okay.
That's huge. It could be podcasts, TV shows, whatever you enjoy.
Right.
You could even just listen to conversations happening around you.
Right. That's such a good, like, easy tip, you know?
It is. It is.
You don't need anything special for that.
Just like go to a coffee shop, listen to people talking.
Yeah. Exactly. What about for speaking practice?
Speaking practice is a little tougher.
Yeah.
Because you have to actually,
find someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Right?
But there's a lot of groups online.
Uh-huh.
Language exchange apps and things like that.
Yeah.
You could even record yourself speaking and then listen back.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
It's so helpful.
Right. You catch all these little mistakes.
It is a little cringy, though.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But it's like having your own little language coach.
It is. And you said it earlier, too. It's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely. That's how we learn.
That's how we learn,
Yeah. Now let's talk about the shadowing technique. We kind of touched on it earlier. Can you explain a little bit more about how that works and why it's so good?
It's basically karaoke for language learning.
Okay.
You listen to a native speaker.
Yeah.
Try to repeat exactly what they're saying.
Okay.
Matching their rhythm, intonation, everything.
So it's like a workout for your mouth?
It is. It is. Getting it to do all those weird sounds.
Exactly. And you could do it with anything.
Oh, okay.
Like a podcast, a song,
Oh, cool.
a scene from a movie.
That sounds fun. What are some tips for making practice in general more interesting?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people think of it as a chore, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's important to find stuff that you're actually interested in.
Right.
Like if you love to cook, watch cooking shows in English. If you're a sports fan, listen to sports commentary.
It's so true. Like when it's something I like, it feels like I'm like not even trying.
Right, because you're actually paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just find ways to connect your interests with language learning.
Right. It shouldn't be boring.
No, it should be fun.
Yeah. Even when we are enjoying it, I feel like we all hit those like plateaus.
Yeah.
How do we deal with that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that progress isn't always like a straight line, You're going to have times when you feel like you're rocketing forward and times where you feel like you're just stuck.
Yeah, like going backwards almost.
Right. And that's totally normal.
Yeah.
But you can't give up.
Right.
Just keep practicing and trust the process.
It's like when you're working out, right?
It is. It is.
You hit those plateaus. It's like, I'm doing all this and nothing's happening.
Right. But just like with fitness, consistency is key.
Okay.
Just keep at it.
And celebrate those like little wins, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get focused on this big like end goal.
Yeah.
And forget how far you've come.
Right. It's like looking at old pictures of yourself like, oh my God.
Exactly. You make so much progress.
Yeah. And that actually brings us to like confidence. Right.
It does.
Because when you can understand and be understood, you feel more confident. You feel more like able to...
You're not just a passive observer, you're an active participant.
Yeah. A whole new world opens up, basically.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of technical stuff.
We have.
And resources, and even like the emotional and social benefits of being fluent. I know this masterclass has one last challenge for us before we wrap up this section of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, remember that movie night situation we talked about?
Yeah.
Our friends invited us to go to a movie.
Yeah, they asked you up for a movie tonight.
And we heard all the back and forth about, what's playing and everything.
What time? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now the challenge is, what would you say? There's no script this time.
No, I like it.
Just, like, what would you say?
It's like they're saying, okay, here are all the tools, now you go.
Exactly, yeah.
Make something beautiful.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Yeah, and I think that's what this whole deep dive is about, right?
It is, yeah.
It's not about memorizing.
Yeah.
It's about being able to actually use the language.
It's about empowering you to use the language.
Yeah, yeah. So, dear listener, that's the challenge for you. Put yourself back in that situation.
Yep.
What would you say? How would you use these techniques we've talked about?
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Just, like, what's your gut reaction?
Yeah.
Have fun with it.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to try.
Okay.
So if my friends asked if I was up for a movie, I might say, yeah, totally. What are we thinking of watching?
Perfect.
I'm using a contraction.
You are.
I'm keeping it casual.
You are.
And I'm expressing enthusiasm.
Yes, you are.
I love it. And I'm already feeling more confident just thinking about,
I love that.
using all this stuff.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, right? Is finding your own voice.
Yeah.
And just being comfortable.
Awesome. So, dear listener, we want you to find your voice.
Yes.
Experiment, try new things, push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit.
And remember, fluency is not like an end point.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey.
It is, yeah.
Full of ups and downs, and it's all about connection,
Right. It is, yeah.
Connecting with other people.
Okay, I think this is a good place to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and wrap up our deep dive into speaking and understanding fast English. I'm still thinking about that movie night challenge.
Yeah.
I like how it makes us actually, use what we learned.
It is. It's a good way to, bridge the gap between the ideas and actually putting it into practice.
Totally. It reminds us this isn't just about, memorizing rules. It's about, using language to actually talk with people.
Right. Language is about connection.
Yeah. This deep dive has been awesome.
Yeah.
Can we do a quick recap of what we talked about?
Yeah, for sure.
Just to make sure I've got all the key takeaways.
Okay, well, I think the first thing to remember is that speed is just one part of being fluent.
Okay.
You don't want to just talk fast.
Yeah.
You got to be clear.
Yeah.
And you got to sound natural.
Right. So it's a balance.
Exactly.
Okay. And one way to do that is using all those contractions and reductions.
Yeah, definitely. Those are super important.
Yeah.
They really make your English flow.
Now, what about chunking?
Oh, yeah, chunking's huge.
Yeah.
Training yourself to hear those chunks of words instead of every single word.
It's like we're upgrading our brains.
It is. It's like a software update.
Yeah.
For your ears.
That's a good way to put it. And then we have that layered listening approach. First the gist, then the keywords, then all the subtle details.
Right, like connected speech and all that.
Okay, and then for speaking, we've got that shadowing technique.
Ah, yes, shadowing.
That was really cool. Having a pronunciation coach in your ear.
Exactly. And you can do it with anything.
Right. Any material that interests you.
Yeah.
So we've got all the tools. Now what's the secret to putting this all together? What's the magic formula?
Well, again, it's not really a secret. It's consistent practice.
Oh.
Finding things that you enjoy.
Right. It should be fun.
It should be fun, yeah. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Totally. Because when it's fun, you actually want to do it.
Exactly. And you'll learn faster that way, too.
Yeah. So, find things that you're into, like movies, podcasts.
Yeah. Or connect with other people who are learning.
Yeah.
You can all practice together.
Now we all know fluency isn't you don't just arrive there one day.
No, it's a journey.
Yeah.
With lots of twists and turns.
Yeah. And we're going to mess up along the way.
Oh, for sure.
You just got to, keep going.
Absolutely. Celebrate the wins and learn from the mistakes.
I think that's a great way to wrap up our deep dive.
Yeah.
So, dear listener, hopefully this has given you some new ideas for how to take your English to the next level.
Yeah. Keep practicing and keep exploring.
And keep connecting with people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, language is about connecting.
So true. That's it for our deep dive into speaking and understanding fast English.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.